Augustus knew it was a dangerous move. The Julius Caesar had been murdered for appearing a king. Augustus would not make the same mistake. He relinquished high office and struck a delicate balance between fact and fiction.
Having by universal consent acquired control of all affairs, I transferred government to the Senate and the people of Rome.
Augustus was a very cagey political leader because he pretended to be restoring all of these Republican political traditions, and in fact, what he was running was a full-fledged dynastic monarchy.
Augustus conquered Cantabria, Aquitania, Pannonia, Dalmatia, and all of Illyricum, as well as Rhaetia.
Augustus not only changed the empire, he expanded it. Egypt had been added early in his career. Soon, northern Spain was joined. Augustus drove across Europe, into Germany, and he united East and West by adding modern Hungary, Austria, the Balkans, and central Turkey. These victories employed Roman soldiers and senators and offered welcome distractions to the city's poor. When Augustus wasn't staging chariot races or gladiator shows, he displayed exotic animals, the quarry of Rome's far-flung empire. A rhinoceros appeared in the arena, Asian tigers in the theater, a giant serpent in the forum.
One key constituency for Augustus was the plebeian population of Rome. That is basically the city mob. You have several 100,000 folks here who have no jobs, and to put it very simply, who need to be kept off the streets and be kept from making trouble, because it's a very volatile and combustible mix there.
The volatile mix that made up Rome stayed quiet for the first 4 years of Augustus's rule. Then, in 23 BC, events took a critical turn. Cassius Dio writes that a series of disasters convinced the people that Augustus needed not less power, but more.
The city was flooded by the overflowing river, and many things were struck by lightning. Then a plague passed through Italy, and no one could work the land. The Romans thought these misfortunes were caused because Augustus had relinquished his office. They wished to appoint him dictator. A mob barricaded the Senate inside its building and, threatening to burn them alive, forced the Senate to vote Augustus absolute ruler.
The demands threatened to unsettle the emperor's precarious political balance. Augustus fell to his knees before the rioters. He tore his toga and beat his chest. He promised the mob that he would personally take control of the grain supply, but Augustus refused to be called a dictator. The crowd disbanded, but the lesson was clear. Augustus was riding a tiger. To keep order on the frontiers, the streets, and the Senate was a superhuman task, and superhuman skills were needed. Luckily for Rome, Augustus had them.
Then something very fortuitous happens. Halley's Comet shows up. And the word is given out by Augustus. This is the soul of Julius Caesar ascending into heaven. So from this point on, he is called Julius Caesar the Divine. Politically, it became very potent, because what does Augustus do at this point? On all his coinage, on all his writings, and all his symbols, whatever, he puts out the words DF, Son of the Divine. And it's really quite an asset in politics to be the son of the divine. There are modern politicians, I think, would be very jealous of being able to do that.
Augustus enhanced his pious new identity with stories of his lean habits. It was said that he lived in a modest house and slept on a low bed, that he ate common foods, coarse bread, common cheese, and sometimes even less.
My dear Tiberius, not even a Jew observes a fast as diligently on the Sabbath as I have today. I ate nothing until the early hours of evening, when I nibbled 2 bites before my rub-down.
Moral change, Augustus began to argue, was the enemy of Rome. He believed that its future ran through its past, through the restoration of values he thought had first made Rome great.
I renewed many traditions which were fading in our age. I restored 82 temples of the gods, neglecting none that required repair at the time.
In public, Augustus led by example. He sacrificed animals in traditional rituals, and he re-established traditional social rules. New laws assigned theater seats by social rank. Women were confined to the back rows. Adultery was outlawed. Marriage and children encouraged. To many, Roman society had recovered its true course. The son of a god was building an empire for the ages.
Who can find words to adequately describe the advancements of these years? Authority has been returned to the government, majesty to the Senate, and influence to the courts. Protests in the theater have been stopped. Integrity is honored. Depravity is punished.
But amid the applause, there were also cries of protest. The emperor's new traditionalism rankled friends and enemies alike. It even rankled his own daughter, Julia. Long a pawn of family politics, Julia assumed that she was exempt from her father's stringent views. She was wrong. And in the coming years, Augustus, the son of a god, would have to confront Augustus, the father.
If there is anyone here who is a novice in the art of love, let him read my book. With study, he will love like a professional.
As the Emperor Augustus firmly charted a course of moral rigor, the poet Ovid staked out different ground. He was now Rome's most famous living poet, and his boldness grew in step with his reputation. Having all but exhausted the conventions of love poetry, he decided to stretch them. He began composing a manual of practical tips on adultery.
Step 1. Stroll under a shady colonnade. Don't miss the shrine of Adonis, but the theater is your best hunting ground. There you'll find women to satisfy any desire. Just as ants come and go, so the cultured ladies swarm to the games. They come for the show, and to make a show of themselves. There are so many, I often reel from the choice.
Many Romans yearned to follow their emperor back to the good old days of stern Roman virtue, but others reveled in the promises of Rome's newfound peace. Ovid was one of them. To the youthful poet, old limits seemed meaningless.
Do not doubt you can have any girl you wish. Some give in, others resist, but all love to be propositioned. And even if you fail, rejection doesn't hurt. But why should you fail? Women always welcome pleasure and find novelty exciting.
Indeed, the earlier civil wars had unleashed enormous social change. Some women had gained political clout, new rights, and new freedoms. Tradition holds that one such woman was Julia, the emperor's only child.